And good day. Take 2 for recording CO3. Talking about absolute value and opposites. It was originally thought that maybe we were all going to learn something new, had really no background with absolute value, but then it turns out that indeed we do. So Jack, could you repeat what you said about the definition of absolute value?
Absolute value is the distance away from zero.
Yes. Sorry. Yes, absolute value is a number's distance from zero. Okay? A number's distance from zero. How far away a number is from zero. Okay? And as Jack said in his example, the absolute value of 3 is going to be the same thing as the absolute value of -3, right? Because they're both the same distance. They're both 3 numbers away from 0. Okay? Sit flat. If I have to tell you again, then we will resort to alternate consequences. And the symbol for absolute value are these absolute value bars. Okay, that's not the number 131. That means the absolute value of 3. And the absolute value of -3, okay, both of those answers would be the same because both 3 and -3 are a distance of 3 from 0. Okay, boys, right? So that leads us to opposites. Okay, what are opposites when we talk about numbers, Wyatt?
Like how far away 20 is from -20?
No, but you're on the right track though. 20 and -20 are opposites. Lexi?
How far away like 6 is from -6?
Okay, that's kind of what he said. 6 and -6 are opposites, but it doesn't have anything to do really with the distance from each other. No?
So it's basically the absolute. I don't know really how to word it. The absolute value is gonna be. Okay, so if you take 3 and you take -3, they are opposites because they're the same distance away from 0.
Stop there. Opposites are numbers with the same absolute value. Okay? So absolute value in and of itself is how far away a number is from 0. Opposites are numbers with the same absolute value. Okay? And every number, with the exception of 0, because that's kind of the middle, but every number has an opposite. And as Wyatt said, and as Lexi said, 20, -20. They're both 20 away from 0. They're opposites. 6, -6. They're both 6 away from 0. They're opposites. Okay? So what this objective is going to focus on, actually 3 things. Obviously, absolute value and opposites, but also your ability to plot a number on a number line, which is kind of an underlying concept that's always good to review. Okay? Have you heard the phrase additive inverse before? Like when you solve an equation, and it's something like x plus 7 equals 12. I mean, most of you can probably solve this mentally, but mathematically, what would you do to both sides of the equation to solve this, to get the variable by itself? It's something I haven't heard from yet today, perhaps. A new contributor to my channel. Mathematically, what would you do to get x by itself here? All right, Camille.
To see like how far apart they are, like the distance.
Right, you can think, how far apart on the number line are 7 and 12. 5 would be the answer here. That's one thing you could do. Jeffrey?
Subtract 12 and 7.
You would subtract 7 from both sides, right? And the reason for that is because +7 and -7 are opposites. Addition and subtraction are opposite operations. This is what, I think, railroad tracks, does that ring a bell? Yeah, okay. That whole process, that whole process goes back to that additive inverse piece. Okay, but we'll get to that later on. So going on down to your work today, your task today, this number line here, The first set of directions says, for each value a through f labeled on the number line, so that's all given for you here, write the absolute value, or write the value of the number, what it actually is, its opposite, and its absolute value. And then g through k down below here, not plotted on the number line. You need to plot them and then write its opposite and absolute value as well. So let's start with A. Does green work? No, green's still in a timeout. What's the value of point A? Where is that on the number line? Carter? I'll give you a hint. There's point A. -5, right? So point A, we don't really have to label it. It's already labeled for us, but -5. And then what's the opposite of that? What number has the same absolute value as -5? Kylie? +5 is the opposite. And what's the absolute value of -5? Jeffrey? +5. Okay. Letter B, what is, this one we do have to label for sure. What's the value of letter B on the number line there? Haley? -2.5. I'm glad you said -2.5 because glancing at this too quickly, some of you may have thought it's -3.5, right? Because you're so used to the positive side of the number line, and like point F, which is past 3, halfway between 3 and 4, that would be 3.5. You see this -3 and you're thinking, oh, it's halfway past it, but it's actually not, right? It's between -2 and -3, making it -2.5. Because on the negative side of 0, we're going to the left, right? Whereas the positive side, we're going right. So just be careful of that. So it is -2.5. What is the opposite of -2.5? Sophie? +2.5. And what's the absolute value of -2.5? 2.5. Okay. Then letters G through K, we'll skip down to the bottom section here. You need to plot the value and then again write its opposite and absolute value. So letter G, describe for me where on the number line that's going to be. Where am I going to plot letter G? Carter. Sorry? On 4? The value of G is 1 2/3.
Oh.
So it's not going to be all the way out to 4. What two integers will it be between? 1 and 2. Is it going to be closer to 1 or closer to 2? Closer to 2, right? Because it's 2/3. So you don't have to get it, perfect, right? But approximately, we can see it's between 1 and 2. It is closer to 2, and that's going to be point G. So now what is the opposite of 1 2/3? -1 2/3. What's the absolute value of 1 2/3? +1 2/3. Okay. Will an absolute value ever be negative? Why not? Why won't an absolute value ever be negative, Jack?
Because the number, if it's a negative, it will be a positive. Like the absolute value is the distance away from 0. You can't count backwards to. You have to go forward to get to the 0.
What word in the definition of an absolute value explains why it will always be positive? Distance, right? You can't have a negative distance. Those that know cars, you know what the odometer is? It's the part that counts up the miles, right? Even if you drive in reverse, you're driving backwards, it still counts up, right? It doesn't count backwards. Okay? Carter. Still counts up, If you walk backwards, you're still walking a positive distance, you're just doing it backwards. Okay? So a distance can't be negative. That's why there's no negative side to a ruler, right? It starts at 0. You can't measure a negative distance. So if you ever come up with a negative value for absolute value, immediately check yourself. Okay? Because the fact that it's a distance ensures it's always going to be positive. Okay? Any questions on what I'm asking you to do for letters A through K? Abby?
Since I'm going to be gone when this is
Why don't you talk to me outside of the lesson, if it's a personal thing? Okay. Yes.
So, for like letter H, would you simplify 9 over 5, or would you just leave it?
So 9/5 is in simplest form. I mean, you could put it as a mixed number if you wanted to. And in fact, converting this to -1 and 4/5 might make it easier for you to plot. Okay, but it is in simplest form. You could convert it, but and which you're fine to do. So either form would be okay. Okay, and then down at the bottom, you've got some word problems, some word questions here. Why are 20 and -20 opposites? And then the second one, I'm thinking of a number with an absolute value of 16. What could my number be? And lastly, you try and hold your breath for exactly 10 seconds, but miss the mark by 2 seconds. How long did you hold your breath? Cade, can you stand for the rest of the period, please? I really don't want you to follow your chair. So since you've shown me you can't sit flat, you may stand. You may stand for the rest of the period. Thank you. Okay. Questions on what you are to do for the homework? You've got 15 minutes to work on it now. The spirit of Christmas, you're welcome. It is due tomorrow. And that, folks, is How You Math.